Alright, so as I promised, what I'm going to be doing today is an Xcode Hello World tutorial. And so the first thing I'm going to do is open up Xcode, and I'm going to create a new Xcode project. I'm going to select Mac OS X application, Cocoa application, make sure both of these are unchecked, and click Choose. I'm going to name this Hello World Tutorial, and select where I want it, click Save. And so the first thing I want to point out is this main menu.xip. And if I open that, you notice the interface builder starts, and I get this very nice blank template application. You see these are already written out for us. Most of them don't do much, and they're disabled by default. And I can double click and change the text and whatnot. But you see, if I close that and run the application without writing anything, what I get is this application with this title menu, and close works, and I can quit and open, and it's all done for me. So to get started, though, what I'm going to do is go to classes, just because that's where I want to save these new class files that we're about to create. Right click, add new file, select Cocoa class under Mac OS X, Objective-C class, make sure it's a subclass of the NS object, and click Next. I'm going to name this Hello World Controller. Check also create Hello World Controller.h, and click Finish. And so, dissimilarly to Java or C#, for instance, dissimilarly to C# or Java, for instance, a class file in Java or C# includes all of the methods for that class file and all of the instance variables, instance variable declarations in the same class file. However, in Objective-C, they're split apart. The header file includes all of the declaration, and the implementation file includes all of the actual implementation of method code. So what I'm going to do first, though, is go back to Resources and open up main menu.xib and get to the interface builder and start building this interface. So for Hello World, what I'm going to need is a button and a text field. So I'm going to go to the library, and if you don't have this, it's in Tools, Library, or you can also open it with Shift-Command-L, and I'm going to search button and put a new push button. And I'm going to search text field and drag on a new text field. And as you can see, as I'm moving these things around, I'm getting these nice blue guidelines to help me organize my interface. And I'm going to double click and set this text of the button to, let's say, click me. Alright, so now I'm going to resize this window, and it's going to be fairly small, but it's going to look like that. So this is our little Hello World. But it doesn't really do anything. So I'm going to save this, File Save, or Command S, and I'm going to come over and build and run. And obviously we haven't written anything, so if I click the button, it's not going to do anything, and if I type in here, it's not going to do anything. So I just quit that. But what I'm going to do now is I have these class files, so I'm going to use them. And I'm going to start with the Hello World Controller.h. Remember, this is our setup file, this is our header file. And if I think about this, let's go back here. Objective-C has two different ways of interacting with the interface, and that is IB outlet and IB action. Um, so IB outlets, if you think about just the name, when I click a button, that's an action. And if what I'm trying to do is put "Hello World," the text "Hello World" into this box, um, then "Hello World" is the output text, and this, when I say the word output, hopefully you recognize that the text field is the IB outlet, and like I said, when you click it, this is the action. So the IB action is clicking the button. Um, so let's go back here, and I'm going in between these brackets of the interface HelloWorld controller, which is a subclass of NSObject. I'm going to type IB outlet, and I need an NS text field. That's a pointer, so just put the asterisk there. You don't need to worry about the specifics of what a pointer is, but put it there, and I'm going to call it text field for my own reference. And then outside of the brackets, I'm going to create a new method that will eventually execute code, just not in this file. IB action, and if you know what a void is, hopefully, a void method is very similar, except that an IB action is sort of like a void which interacts with the interface. So I'm going to call it display text colon, which means it takes in parameters of ID sender, and I'm going to put the semicolon there. And so basically I've just declared that there's this new method, but I haven't told the compiler what it actually does yet. So I'm going to copy everything besides the semicolon and go over to the implementation file, where in between add implementation and add end, I'm going to add this new method. I'm going to put a curly braces here, and it autofills the closed curly braces there. So now what I need to do is just type in the code that will place the new text into this text field. So as good coding practice, what I'm going to do is set up a new string for text, and I'm going to call it, well, I'm going to declare it as NSString, which is a pointer. I'm going to call it output text equals nil, and just good coding practice. Output text is equal to at quotations hello world. And so what I've done here is I've declared this new NS string output text that's equal to nothing. Don't worry about that, about what nil actually means. Right now it's not a big deal, but just remember it for good coding practice. Always go the long way when you're just starting out. So then I come back and I set this to hello world. The difference between having the at there and not having the at there is the difference between, if it's not there, then hello world is a C string, meaning a string in reference to the C coding language of which Objective-C is based off of. So when I put the at there, it becomes an NS string object, and that's what I want. So I've set it now equal to that, and the last thing to do is put this text in the text field. So what I'm going to do is, the command for that is these block brackets, and I'm going to reference this text field. Remember, that's what I called it. Text field, set string value is the command, and to what, and I'm going to say output text. Then close the brackets and semicolon, and I'm going to save. So then I'm going to go down. Now I'm done, really, with all the code that I've written, because I've accomplished what I needed to. I set up the outlet, I set up the action, and I wrote the code for the action. So now I'm done with coding, but now I need to tie it back into the interface. So I'm going to go back to the interface, and so what I need is an object, because we wrote class files for an object, but we don't have an object now in this project over here. So I'm going to type in object. So now I can reference the object that we made in code in the interface. And I'm going to go over to the information button, and I'm going to start typing Hello World Controller, and it pops up. So now this object is in reference to these two class files. And then what I'm going to do is tie the IB action and the IB outlet back to the interface. Okay, so now what I'm going to have to do is build this. And if I come back to the interface builder and right-click on this new Hello World controller, I can see my outlet and my received action. So all I'm going to have to do is come over here to these little plus buttons and drag the text field outlet to the text field, and drag the display text action to the click me button. So I'm going to save this and come back to Xcode, build and run, and it's going to come up. I'm going to click the button, and there's Hello World. So I'm going to type, and it resets it back to Hello World. And alright, so that's it. There's the first Hello World.